everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Excalibur Roundtable Tech Talk. I am Mike Fuson. We're going to continue our extended Tech Talk series with our friends from CG4. Today, I'm joined by Will Barrowes from CG4. Will, thank you for joining me.
Hello, how are you doing?
It is fantastic. It's always fun to talk about what customers are doing, wild and crazy things customers are doing with CG4. And
I agree.
Today, we wanted to dive into one of the use cases for a number of customers that have warehouse locations, and they're distributing things out of the warehouse. So this isn't so much the case of tracking all the items that are being distributed out of the warehouse, but it's tracking the items that are used by the folks within the organization to actually do their job. So warehouse personnel have a scanner, they may have a headset that they're issued or other equipment for them to do their job on a day-to-day basis. And what the use case was is we wanted to be able to check those devices out and know who had it assigned to, either for the day or for the week. We've got different scenarios where that can work, and then also be able to then flag if something didn't get turned back in, so it's not checked back in. But leveraging barcoding technology in order to make this a very quick and efficient process to issue out the items that are needed and check them back in addition to being able to mark something out for repair, other things that we need to do from a workflow process. One of the key items was just knowing what's checked in, what's checked out, and then if they want to then go do an inventory, being able to inventory all the devices that are there and compare that to what they believe should be an inventory, and to identify devices are missing.
Do we have any idea, like the magnitude of devices that were going missing as part of dealing with this use case?
So in this particular use case, there were devices that went missing. Eventually, they were found in many cases, but the challenge was knowing that it was missing in the first place. So they'd go, "Oh, we seem to be down a scanner. Let's order another one." Right?
Okay,
While they're expensive devices, they're not overly expensive. And the other challenge they were looking at is as their throughput grew, they would have, there were periods of time where they were busier than others. So they may bring in temporary personnel to help. And so they had equipment available for them, but then who did it get checked out to? Where did it go? Not that there was massive theft going on, but do we know where everything is? Because even if the device is only a $500 device, but if we've got 40 of them, that's a pretty serious chunk of capital tied up in handheld scanners or headsets or what have you.
And if they don't get checked back in, then that leaves the productivity of the people that need those scanners down, and that's the company suffers there. And if it's some of those temporary helpers might be kind of like some of my kids that they just don't put things away, and I want to encourage that.
Right. Well, and the other scenario we were looking at is really when you talk about productivity and efficiency, you look at the lost time where a supervisor is going, okay, I'm short one scanner, where and the lost productivity of the employee going, well, I don't have one of the tools that's necessary to do my job, and we always for so many scenarios liken it to building a house. Well, it's real hard to put up the frame of a house if you don't have a hammer. Could you use a rock? Sure, it's not gonna really work real well. But why not have the right tool? But that's the key is where are these devices? Who are they checked out to? And if something's not checked back in, do we want to know it's not been checked back in? There could be a grace period, a day or two, but hey, this device seems to be out in the wind. Who last had it? Just knowing that basic information can drive quick efficiency, because I can say, hey, Will, I checked out a scanner to you last. Oh shoot, you know what? Yep, had gotten all dirt. We had a spill or something, and I had cleaned it up, and it's sitting on the top shelf of my locker. Nothing untoward, but all of a sudden, boom, we can identify exactly where things are and take care of it. Or devices that may need to be repaired, they get dropped. We think about a warehouse scenario. devices get dropped. That's why I know, looking at the devices that you guys have available for customers, a lot of them are hardened and devices that are designed to bounce off the floor because that's what realistically can happen.
A lot of those scanners that are built for warehouse use, they're ruggedized, and they do lots of tests where they put them on concrete and they tumble them so many thousands of times. They drop them, from 4 to 5, 6 feet, just to make sure that they don't break onto cement, and those ruggedized devices, they really put them through the paces because they take a beating.
But even the ruggedized devices could potentially need a repair at some point for any number of various reasons. And that was the kind of the other use cases that we've now taken it out of inventory, put it into a repair scenario. Then that may go out to a manufacturer for an RMA potentially, or a repair, and it's going to be sent back. And maybe the instructions they get is to send it back to a different warehouse. And one of the things we work with the CG4 team on is, as that device is scanned in and it goes, oh, hey, it was in inventory, my rule says if I scan it back in, put it in this warehouse location. So they know it automatically moves to the correct warehouse location without anybody having to go in and necessarily update the CMDB manually. And it's one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize about CG4 is, we can have different modules to do different things, but within those modules, you guys have a pretty extensive ability to create some fairly robust rules around what happens when a certain scenario occurs.
We make it really easy. Like if you've got a rule and a module, when I say module, that lines up with some step in your asset lifecycle. But if you want to create a new module and put a rule into it and deploy it out to your users, you can usually do it in a matter of a handful of minutes versus, the alternative. Like you said, if we didn't have that module and someone needed to go log into the system and type it in manually, I mean, if it does ever happen, because the employees are not going to love doing something like that, is still prone to errors. But creating those modules within CG4 just takes a few minutes, and then you're forever using accurate, methodical processes for keeping track of everything.
And one of the great things in this particular project, and in Excalibur and CG4 collaborating, we actually extended CG4's integration with Cherwell Service Management to be able to, and it's something that I suspect CG4 is going to apply to the number of different systems that CG4 is integrated with, is the ability for us to actually have an audit log of all of the actions that have gone against a particular device, from a check-in, check-out scenario, from when they're doing an inventory of all of the devices in a particular location. And then in addition, we've generated an incident. And we actually work with CG4 in this use case, and it's now available to all customers to be able to actually create an incident by hitting a button on the scanner. It allows for an incident to be created in a Cherwell, but that same process could be used for whatever a customer's IT service management system may be, as we've built kind of the basis in which to do it. And so it starts to extend that capability of the folks that are on the front lines, where we're trying to do this accurately and quickly. It's that efficiency and accuracy that we're really driving for, but giving them the ability to do somewhat advanced things, again, without having to log into a machine. And because we're exchanging information with our IT service management system, in this case, Cherwell Service Management, one of the things we did with Cherwell Service Management is leveraging dashboards and the data that's being exchanged. And this is data that's almost instantaneously exchanged with the CMDB. We've been able to give fairly robust real-time data to the folks that are trying to manage, in that case of locating, well, how many of are past 5 days since they were checked in and they had a trigger point, where these are items that are typically checked out for only a week, and being able to catch those things that we're looking to catch for cost savings and efficiency quickly and efficiently. And so it was really neat to I hadn't had the opportunity up to that point to get as deep. I had gotten deep, but not as deep as I did with your team, and looking at the nuances of what we wanted to do in this scenario and just how flexible. And like you said, Taylor, who's one of the team members at CG4, spun up a new module based on a simple request in literally like 2 minutes. And we were able to do exactly what needed to be done, exactly the way we wanted to do it that quickly. And he said, okay, when we do training, I'll show you how I did that. Because they were looking at, I think the customer was going, well, okay, I actually followed everything you just did. It wasn't super complicated. And that goes to a good development team that's built a product that's easy to use. Yeah. So, I always look at that, in the early days of Sharewell, when we first started with them as a codeless platform, one of the early adopters of the codeless technology, customers would say that we're developers. I see why there's certain things we can't do, because in order to make it easy for folks to do the things they need to do, there's a lot of complexity that's hidden behind the scenes, and that's keeping us out of trouble, and creating problems for ourselves we don't want to have.
One of the things that's kind of satisfying for me is situations like that where a customer says, well, can we do this or tweak this to do that? And we can, crank it out pretty quickly. I find it really interesting that, someone will come to us and they'll say, okay, I want to do A and B and C. And so, okay, we set them up to do A, B, and C. And then it kind of turns a light bulb on in their head of, oh, wait a minute. I would also like to have D, E, and F, and I want to think about a G. And so you start to give them what they were thinking about, and it just kind of expands their mind of what the possibilities are. And it's just kind of a fun thing to be a part of.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's like so many other things. Well, what are the limits? Well, the limits are probably your imagination. What is it that we can do to make things better, more efficient, and more accurate for you? And that's what CG4 is really bringing to the table, is that level of accuracy and the quickness. Because we talked about previous scenarios of like scanning a data center. I was talking to a client about this the other day. That takes multiple people days to do manually, whereas we could do it in hours, leveraging the proper technology. And how much more accurate are things? Way more accurate. And it also gives us that ability, when you really start to look at it, it's that cost savings of not only time, but being able to make sure things are where they're supposed to be, and identify for so many customers, especially with work from home. And you look at this sort of scenario that we just laid out with a warehouse application. With work from home, things were changing so dynamically. Did a device inadvertently get taken home? Do we know where that device is? And for a lot of companies, okay, well, it's a $200 device. We're not going to die if it doesn't get found. But you start to multiply that by 10, 20, 30, 100 devices that are misplaced, and they're needed, so they're replaced, and now you've got all kinds of extras. And did we need to spend that money, or could those dollars have gone to other efforts? So it's driving that efficiency and driving that value to the organization. So these are always fun scenarios to talk about, because so often we get hit with those things where it follows a common path that a lot of folks are looking to do, and then they go a little bit further or a little different direction, and it creates some really, really unique solutions.
It's fun. It's satisfying to help take care of customers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as always, Will, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to exploring more of these use case scenarios with you as we continue to put together these recordings.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure, as always.